Okay, so I'll go back here so you can see this slide. It's so pretty. Isn't that pretty?
Beautiful.
So that's the overview that we just covered verbally. For those that are watching the replay, this is our class overview that we just covered and kind of how the class itself is going to go. And now I'm going to just go into more teaching. So if you want to, you can just kind of listen along, you can take notes, you can feel this is going to be the part that's more, it's like, where did I get this information? What backs it up? So first I want to explain what we know about what a soul is. So the soul, okay? So when I first came to Gateway and I wanted to do my PhD, I wanted to do on how trauma affects the soul. And I couldn't prove that there was a soul. And I did my chapter 1 and there was a lot of stress around it because I couldn't prove it. And that's because the contemporary psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy, the concept of the soul has historically been marginalized due to the association of religion and metaphysics. However, across transpersonal psychology, consciousness studies, and near-death research, the soul is increasingly understood not as a belief construction, but as a demonstration of consciousness that transcends yet animates the body-mind system. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that now. And you can put it on me if you want to have that screen, and you can focus on my really blank slide. So from a transpersonal perspective, the soul may be defined as an enduring field of self-awareness, identity, and consciousness that exists beyond the physical body, psychological personality, while expressing itself through them, okay? And so when I talk about this and I talk about trauma, our goal here is to really take this disconnected soul and re-embody it into the system the soul was given to express and relate to the world around you. And when you're born, some people say that the soul is already in the body. Other people say sometimes the soul can come into the body around 5 years old. Now, if you've had trauma, the soul then is protected by the body, and we're going to get more deep into that, and the elements of the body, which I'll talk more about too. So that said, neuroscience and consciousness studies, modern neuroscience acknowledges that consciousness itself remains unexplained by brain material. All right, so this is really, really cool. Despite mapping neurological and neural correlations of experience, there is no empirical evidence that subject awareness is granted by the neurons, by the brain. Right? There's nothing, there's actually evidence that we'll talk about in 2 seconds that says kind of the opposite. It is known as the hard problem of consciousness by people in the field, including us. Now we're calling it that. Leading researchers such as Dr. Stuart Herman and Sir Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe. So isn't that cool? That we are one with the universe, as we know, not reducible to brain chemistry. There is an arc-OR theory that suggests that consciousness operates at the quantum level and interfaces with neural structures rather than originating from them. So oftentimes we think that we are thinking from inside of our head, we think and grow rich, right? We think and create things, but it's actually when we're living right side up, it's the opposite. Those thoughts are inspired and spirited into us, and then from that place, we actually create our reality and our perspective. This supports the transpersonal model, which I absolutely love, in which the brain functions more as a receiver or transducer of consciousness rather than its source. So when I was doing my doctorate, I studied some documents of Dr. Bruce Geisten, who documented thousands of near-death experiences in which individuals reported clear consciousness, memory, identity, and perception, while the brain showed little to no measurable activity. So we know that it's not there. Then Dr. Sam Perina demonstrates in the AWARE studies, that's the name of his studies, that patients could accurately recall events occurring between periods of clinical death when no brain activity and was functioning at all, when they were brain dead, which I thought was really, really neat. So these findings really, really, really argue against that we're just material. And all that you're going to be learning in this course and how to help your clients come back into themselves and experience yourself to really come back into yourself is going to help you to do that. Another book that I really, really loved while in my doctorate program was the Journey of the Souls books that really demonstrate what happens to our consciousness and memories between lives and near-death experiences. So, and there's another one that Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker conducted decades of research, which is really cool, on children who simultaneously recalled variable past life memories, often including names, locations, and deaths unknown to them. And for me personally, I've had past life memories since I was a baby. My mother told me about them. I actually kind of convinced her that they were real, naming names, locations, and how I passed away. And so this has been really big for me to realize in my own healing that, I wasn't this body only, and that there's a presence within me in this field that I call my body that is going to live on past this lifetime. And now they're starting to actually look at that and identify it. So this provides evidence for continuing consciousness beyond a single life frame and lifetime, and core characteristics of traditionally attributed to the soul. So that's how we're really going to define the soul. From a soul-centered model, trauma disrupts the nervous system, which we're going to get into in a moment, and the coherence of individual consciousness field, which we'll talk more about these different fields. And I love Judith. If you've taken our core curriculum here at Gateway University, Judith really talks about the God ladder and the layers of consciousness that we have. And we're going to be building on that. I frame it a little bit differently when I'm treating adults, and this is really a treatment model, but it's the same concept and how we all have these fundamental tools, right? Or I don't know what I call them, power zones, that we can learn how to operate, and they're very individual to each and every one of us. And so the program that I've created here to really guide you through and help you with other people, teach other people, is meant to help you reconnect soul to the body and to the systems. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is, if the soul is in the body at birth, what does trauma do to the soul? So in clinical psychology, trauma is defined as the experience that an experience or experiences that overwhelm an individual's capacity to cope, resulting in lasting disruptions in emotional regularity, identity, psychological stability, and meaning making. And this is from the APA from 2013. Abuse trauma refers specifically to trauma arising from sustained and repeated violations of a person's boundaries, safety, and dignity, including emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual, and psychological abuse. This also includes all things like neglect and the abuse that we might do to ourselves, like substance abuse, abusing things outside of ourselves. So it's not only from an external only perspective, we can also use this for an internal perspective too, where we're abusing ourselves. So unlike single incident trauma, abuse trauma is characterized by chronic exposure to threats within relational systems that were meant to provide safety. And this form of trauma often leads to complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, which has been kind of my love or my life, one or the other. And it changes persistent relationships, identities, attachment patterns, and nervous system functioning and self-perception. And that really comes from Herman and his studies in 1992. So from the nervous system perspective, which we're going to get deeper into when we talk about layer 1, which is the body, abuse dysregulates the autonomic nervous system, particularly the vagus nerve. So you'll learn some techniques on body talk and regulating the vagus nerve with your clients, which governs safety, connection, and our threat response. And those studies were by Purgis 2011. Survivors often become locked in survival mode. So you might have heard of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or people pleasing, and hypervigilance. So it actually activates their 6 senses. So clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, and what's the other clair? Clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairtaste, and clairsmell. Whatever those clairs are called. Oh gosh. So neurobiological research demonstrates that abuse trauma alters the functioning of the amygdala. So we'll get into this when we go into the body zone in class 3, the hippocampus, and the frontal cortex. And what this does is it locks people down so they can't create their life. If you don't have a safety mechanism to tell your brain it's okay to think, it's okay to focus inward, you can't meditate, you can't dream, and you can't create, because we know that we create from the electromagnetic field that our brain puts out. So helping your clients come back into this regulation is going to be really, really key. And when they do, the integration of memories can happen, their frontal cortex comes back into play, and they have more emotional regularity. So disassociation is no longer something that they don't want or they fear, but we're going to reframe it in a transpersonal psychology modality to be something that they can actually utilize to create the life that they want and create in their life, and astral travel, meditate, remote view, all those other wonderful things that we talk about and we teach about here deeper in transpersonal psychology, that Judith Lasater really builds on in some of my favorite classes here. So some of the common symptoms that therapists label as diagnoses that are healed when you do this work is chronic anxiety and hypervigilance through reframing and understanding, disassociation and depersonalization, emotional dysregularity, shame, guilt, and negative self-concept, difficulty trusting others, somatic symptoms and chronic illness, and identity fragmentation, impaired boundaries, and attachment patterns, all of which we are going to be talking about how to integrate in one of the modules going forward. So from a transpersonal psychology perspective, abuse trauma is not only a psychological injury, but a disruption in consciousness and embodied identity. Trauma fractures the individual's sense of coherence between body, mind, emotions, and meaning. And survivors frequently report feeling disconnected from themselves, their bodies, their intuition, and their life purpose. And that was studied by Goff in 1985. This fragmentation can be understood as a partial withdrawal of consciousness. And as we understood from what I just spoke about in the soul, another name for our soul is consciousness. I just like writing. This makes me feel like I'm a writer. When I grew up, a little bit about me, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, which is a highly academic place. And I used to sit in a coffee shop called the Trident in downtown and watch all the professors like type their books and do things. And when I was doing my dissertation, I went home and I was sitting in the Trident typing my book and doing things. And I always imagined them up here doing this. So I'm having kind of a moment here. So if I tear up, know that this is a big dream of mine. And I'm really, really honored to be here. Okay. In soul-centered models, trauma creates an environment in which the nervous system no longer feels safe enough to host full presence. And this is really, really important, leading to chronic disassociation, and loss of vitality. So it's our jobs through this work to bring back vitality to the people that you are, that you're helping and that you're leading. Healing, therefore, requires not only a cognitive process, right? We've already gone over like why it's not all about what we're thinking, but also restoration of the nervous system and safety, emotional integration, and re-embodiment of consciousness. And I'm going to teach you a process and really guide you through a process. One of our labs is soul embodiment. So we'll go through the first 4 layers of a person's personhood, beyond soul. And then we'll go into soul embodiment, and I'm really excited to guide you through that. In transpersonal trauma models, recovery is identified as a restoration of self-coherence, nervous system regulation, and integration of identity across physical, emotional, psychological, and external dimensions, right? How we relate to the world. So we'll go into relationships and their purpose and their money and all that stuff, and yours as well. Trauma healing is therefore not merely a symptom reduction, which is what it is in traditional therapies right now, where the somatic people are just working with the body and the nervous system, and the psychological people are just working with the mind and behaviors, and the emotional people and spiritual people are working with their segments. We're going to bring it all together in a holistic model so your clients can process, right? Really reclaiming agency, embodiment, purpose, and wholeness. And I'll have a list of like the studies, and I'll download my notes for you guys if you'd like. So this is what trauma does. This is how I explain it to my clients. Can you see my little girl? First,
Yes.
is there anything that you don't understand about what I said? You can all unmute yourself. You would love the notes? Okay, awesome. I wasn't going to include them, but then I thought, you know what, this one is so much, and I'd written it out a while ago, and I never even shared it with Kimberly.
It would be helpful. Could you also put the doll closer to the camera for a moment
Yeah.
so I can see her up close?
Let's see, which camera am I
There.
on?
Yeah, that one.
There.
It's that one.
I see.
Okay.
A babushka.
Yeah,
She's a nesting doll.
she's a nesting doll. So we're going to go through the nesting doll. I'm going to use this as we go through it. So identity and what we're going to talk about next is identity consciousness and the human energy system. And how I explain it when talking about what I call the Amazing You methodology, being amazing. So identity consciousness and the human energy system is both psychological and neuroscientific research. Identity is defined as the organized sense of self. So how I see this is it's the individual experiences that they go through. It's continuing agency, memories, and meaning making. Identifying triggers and perception. This is how they think, right? So somebody with ADHD, right, or neurodivergence is going to think a lot differently than somebody who is not neurodivergent. Somebody with CPTSD is going to think differently than somebody that hasn't had those experiences or that lifeline. Somebody that believes that money doesn't grow on trees is going to think differently than somebody that thinks money's easy to come by and it just flies at them. And we've noticed that really those differences make a big difference on who the person is. This is also emotional, right? Who we are is identity integration is emotional, how we feel about things. We know that our feelings are frequencies, and those frequencies radiate out, and they're actually more powerful when it comes to reality creation, which isn't what this is about, but it's almost impossible for a person who has fragmented identity to create anything outside of that unconscious fragmentation that runs on their unconscious, subconscious level, because they have tons of emotions that they don't know how to regulate, they make wrong, they shame. So that's a really big deal. And then we have the social context into the coherent subject, and that Mick Adams talks about. So consciousness in turn refers to the fundamental field of awareness through which identity is perceived, constructed, and expressed. And that's what I've been studying. How is our consciousness? I studied yoga philosophies, I've studied psychology, I've studied reality creation and neuroscience, and spirituality, and how we quantum jump, how we have these supernatural experiences. I was healed, my thyroid and adrenal failure was healed when I was in a yoga training. I laid on the ground in Savasana because I was too hot. It was 2000. And I guess I levitated. My body began floating. 200 people saw it. I didn't experience that because I was actually over with Amachi, who is a saint, and she healed my adrenal and my thyroid. And I had been suffering, not being able to walk, not having energy, having inflammation, a whole bunch of stuff. My adrenals had failed earlier that year, and I was hospitalized, and I never had trouble again. Now, I was led to different doctors and people to take care of myself and learn how to take care of myself, but all of that shifted. So these supernatural experiences also play a role. And when people go in and they just heal, right? People go in with cancer and then come out and they can't find the tumors, they can't find the cancer. We hear those stories, but why and how can we reproduce those stories? And I find that's a lot of this identity and safety in the body. So from a transpersonal psychology perspective, identity is not limited to personality traits or cognitive self-concepts, but is understood as a multi-layered structure that emerges through the interaction of consciousness with the body, nervous system, emotional fields, and subtle energy systems. And this is from Weber 2000. He proved it all, but I was teaching it before that and just not on an academic level. So I'm going to explain how we're going to walk through that and that integration. Consciousness is therefore primarily, while identify represents consciousness, is therefore primary. Okay, we are soul, it's the primary, while identity represents its localized expression through the embodied form, so through the body. And I'm going to explain how trauma affects that in a second. Modern consciousness research increasingly supports the view that awareness cannot be fully reduced to brain activity alone. despite extensive mapping of I thought this was really cool, neural correlation, subjective experiences remains irreducible to neural mechanisms, suggesting that consciousness is a fundamental property of reality rather than the byproduct of neurochemistry. That's a lot to take in. I had trouble reading it. Right? But basically, when we talk about reality creation or manifestation, like this is why it happens. And this is why so many people that have had trauma, and most people have had some sort of trauma, have a hard time really living in that reality creation, myself included, and hopefully a way that we can integrate more and more and more and be able to create this utopia or this fifth dimensional world that we are guiding our clients through and studying into. So in this framework, the human organism is best understood as a biological interface for consciousness. I call it the power zone. Okay, it's the battery pack, it's a power zone, rather than its source, which is when we come down and we're embodied, we go through amnesia. This is, we forget our past lives, we forget that, we go through amnesia, and then we're relating to, we are the body, we are the breakdown, we are the injury, we are the sickness. And then on top of that, classical or current psychology labels things as illnesses, when it's actually an injury. Trauma is an injury and it's not an illness. And this is a big piece that I put in my dissertation, that trauma is not a mental illness. It's not an autoimmune disease. Trauma is the injury. And when we fix the injury, when we heal the injury, when we create a safe space for the person to come, the consciousness to come back home and embody, then we heal. So and then the next thing that we're going to be really talking about in class, this is 1, so 2, 3, 4, 5, before we do our embodiment practice, is your electromagnetic field and human bioenergetics. And luckily, we've been studying this a lot. So biophysics demonstrates that the human body generates complex electromagnetic fields through neural activity, cardiac rhythms, and cellular communication. The heart produces the strongest measurable electromagnetic field in the body, extending several feet beyond us, right? Some people say 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. By doing a form of Reiki, I call it body lights therapy. My mother taught it to me. And then I was trained in Reiki, and then I did Joe Dispenza's work, and he does heart coherence and heart healing. So call it what you want. But we have this field. And what I've discovered by working with hundreds of my clients is that when we go through a trauma, that consciousness and that rhythm does one or two things. It either extends out and it kind of blows out, and we'll talk about that in a second, where they become everything else around them. We can call it more of a polarized identity, or some people call it bipolar in different cases. Some people call it borderline personality, but it like blows out, codependence, and you're just always on the outside of the world looking in. This was definitely where I lived, trying to people please, figuring out, find that safety from the external world. Or it comes in and it gets really tight and kind of hides, and you don't vibrate much out. And from this person, they still don't have a self-concept, so they're trying to control everybody else around them, where one is trying to be everybody else around them, the other is trying to control everyone else around them to be them. And we call this narcissistic. And so in that, this is really an electromagnetic field perspective. And when working with people, giving them back their space, their authority, and who they are, helps them to regulate this field, learn how to work their energy field and move. So research in psychopsychology and biofield science suggests that emotional states and cognitive patterns modulate the coherence and stability of electromagnetic fields. So I'm going to share with you how I like to do that. So chronic stress, trauma, and emotional dysregulation are associated with fragmentation and incoherent biofields, while states of safety, compassion, and presence correlate with increased coherence and psychological integration. So I want to share a story about Gateway in this. So before working alongside, and I think I started like working alongside you, Kimberly, and Gateway in 2016, 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And I had never experienced safety before in emotional regularity. It's just something that I had never, ever, ever, ever experienced. I wasn't ever allowed to have feelings. I wasn't allowed to, I just wasn't allowed to have any feelings. It was never safe. It was a lot of dysregulation and fragmentation. I had all this wisdom on it, but I didn't know how to do it. And then I went through another big trauma, which is something that in my studies I find is very normal. I went through a big trauma in the beginning of 2016, and it opened that all up again and fragmented me. And within 12 days, utilizing this formula and learning more about emotional regularity and the phases of emotions, which I'm going to share with you more about, and then having Kimberly there just holding me, saying, it's okay, like I feel that way too, like it's normal, like you're fine, you're not quitting, you're going to continue, this isn't over. That in itself was enough for me to learn how to be safe in all of my emotions. So for instance, this morning I woke up and I was like instantly just in tears. And so many of my clients, when they cry, they go, oh, something's wrong, something's bad, something's going to happen. And because of this work, I was able to be in tears and go, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm nervous. I'm teaching a whole bunch of academics. You guys are my peers, right? You guys might be smarter than me and wiser than me in many, many ways. And you have things to teach me, right? So I have huge respect for you. And at the same time, I was like, no, like I'm crying because my dreams are coming true. Because I've worked my entire life to share this wisdom that I've lived through that nearly has killed me 7 times over again. And near-death experiences a few times. And I get to do it. Today's the day. And I'm sweating just talking about it, but that wouldn't have been possible without this major piece of learning my electromagnetic fields. And by the time 2016 rolled around, I had been working as a Reiki practitioner. I had been doing energy work and CERT work and emotional regulation with people and breaking, belief systems. And yet I hadn't experienced that safety. So I hope that you get to experience that and see how powerful one person can be to actually change your whole world and bring it safety. So we're also going to be talking about this field in relationship to this chakra system. And this overview, it's a big overview. It's more than the introduction. I guess on our slides we can go into like exploring identity. But we're going to be really working with the chakra system, but the chakra system, more importantly, is the nerve bundles that actually make up the nervous system that connect to your emotional body, which is your connective tissue. It's actually your fascia is your emotional body, and why we come up with aches and pains and all this stuff when we hold emotion. And for many survivors of trauma, I just want to speak on this, and I know I'll go more into it then, but for me, I just realized like I was having pain in my knees and pain in places in my body this last year. And I'd been clearing emotions and fear and shame and sadness and embarrassment, all these ones that we think of as emotions, and nothing was budging. And a couple months ago, I was in meditation and I was like, well, clear happiness, clear joy, clear excitement. And I know some of you, or Allie, you were at my graduation. I didn't know how to celebrate. I didn't know how to be excited for me because it's so overwhelming, right? I cry when people have success. That's like my biggest, like, big emotion. And so I didn't know how to do that for myself like I did today. But I released those feelings, and the pain in my neck, the pain in my shoulder blade, and the pain in my knees have all gone away because I was holding actually this really positive, fast moving, fast vibrational frequencies in my body of enlightenment and attunement and joy and contentment and love. Right? So oftentimes we need to clear and give ourselves permission to feel the great things in life because those cause pain in the body too. It's like a backed up dam. All right, so the chakra system will be, I'll be referencing the root chakra is survival, safety, embodiment, and nervous system regulation. So that will be class 1 or 2. Sacral will be emotion, pleasure, relational, and connection. And that actually, we're going to jump from 1 to 3, and that's going to be class 4, will be our emotions. The solar plexus is identity and agency of self-esteem, which is usually mental. So that's going to be what we're going to do second. And I'll explain why we do this in this way when healing adults. I think, although I've only worked with children a little while and was actually in a clinical setting when I was working in clinic, and I didn't work specifically with them, but working with their emotional bodies like we teach here at Gateway Second is really powerful for them. But as adults, we have made so much meaning. It's very challenging to get to the emotional body in a safe space if the brain is not yet intact, if the person's not thinking for themselves yet. So when it comes to trauma and trauma healing, we're going to learn how to do physical, mental, then emotional. Even though when we're really rebuilding the system, we know that we come out in a physical body and then our first language is emotional, crying, cooing, all that stuff. Next is heart. So this is attachment, compassion, and emotional coherence. So we'll lean into that. Next is throat, expression, and truth. Third is perception, or sixth, our third eye, is perception, intuition, and self-awareness. And then the crown is that transpersonal consciousness and meaning and unity. So we're going to be really diving into this to create a really cohesive transpersonal model, healing identity, and restoring all of this communication within the body. Okay, so that's the overview of here. The learning objectives, I want you to understand soul psychology, understand how trauma affects the soul, and integrate this awareness into yourself. We're going to do her in just a second. And this is just themes. All right, so when it comes to trauma, I like to use her because she's easy to explain. So this is my little dude. And we think, well, trauma affects the body. When somebody goes through a trauma and the trauma is physical, right? It affects the body and the body can't do much about it. Say a car accident or somebody's being beat or SA, sexual abuse, sorry. It's like that. I don't want to trigger anybody, but that's there. But when the body says, well, this is too much for me, I can't handle this, it defaults and it breaks apart. And this is how we think of trauma in today's world. And then the mental mind is given the ball. And the mental mind goes, well, what can I do about it? How can I talk my way out of this? How can I get out of this situation? But sometimes we can't think, or as a child, we have no choice. We're trapped, we're stuck in this. And that breaks. It says, well, I can't deal with this. We're out of here. And then next we have the emotional body. And the emotional body goes, I'm going to run, I'm going to fight, I'm going to scream, I'm going to yell, I'm going to just get up and push the car over, right? And save my kids. And the emotional body does its things, but sometimes the emotional body isn't listened to, it's just invalidated, it's gaslit, it's told not to feel, and then it detaches. And then we have the etheric field, okay? This is your relationship to God, source, but this is also your relationship with authority. So when it really came down after years and years and years about teaching about this field and energy, yeah, it's energetic. Absolutely, it's vibrational. But more importantly, it's like, what are you giving authority to? When we're doing emotional work, when we're doing energy work, right? We're clearing people's soul ties. We're clearing people's energetic ties to what they're giving power to what they're giving authority to. So when you have your authority taken away from you, like an abuse trauma example, then boom, that's gone. Harder for kids to heal from than adults. And then we have this little bitty piece that we think is itty bitty there, and I'll call this the soul. Okay? So what happens, I'm going to draw here. We're going to get big. I'll make it big so you guys can see. So we have a person. I am not an artist. I love artists. I birth artists, but I am not one. Right? We have a person, and this person has a soul. And the soul comes down and it just runs the system. It's in the body. It's super excited to live this life. It's running the eyes. It's connected to it all. And it has its personhood. Right? And so in this relationship here, this is a healthy, happy person. And they're going about life. This person can think for themselves. They have a good self-perception. They have autonomy over their body. They have autonomy over their thoughts. They have autonomy over their emotions. Now, does bad crap happen to them? Does life happen? Absolutely. But they're going through for the experiences, the good, the bad, all of that. Okay? All of that. And then they have a trauma. Now, there's two aspects of trauma that I'm going to teach about. Well, there's only two traumas, really. Trauma comes from two places. Okay, it comes from your genes. We pass it down from generation to generation to generation. That's why we call it generational trauma. It can be through habits. It can be through letting things slide. It can be through, like, I have celiac disease, right? So my guts don't really work, process things, right? It's genetic. So we have genetic traumas. And then we have experiential traumas. Now, there's a ton of different experiences. There's a car accident, there's a divorce, there's moving, there's abuse, right? But to really just keep it simple, there is external and internal. External would be like somebody abused somebody, right? Somebody yelled at somebody and continuously yells at them and degrades them, and that would be abuse. Or a car accident, right? And you go through a trauma and you have a car accident. Internal would be negative self-talk, negative self-concept, dysregulated emotions, and or if somebody does like substance abuse, which would be more along the lines of abusing oneself, a commitment to self-abuse. And we all deal with this a little bit. Everybody has something in here, but a healthy environment would be able to move through these things, know that it doesn't mean that they're broken and they're put together and their soul is, ticking along. It's happy. They're listening to their soul. So this is the traumas that we're looking at. This is the soul. But when the trauma happens, the breakdown happens. So say that somebody goes through religious abuse. This is the biggest one I find, religious abuse, because it makes the person believe that they're not God, but God is over here. Something outside of them, they have nothing to do with it. Now, every religion says that God is within, but a lot of religious people will still put it in a book or a person, man, entity in the sky that is pulling the threads, and there it lives. Somebody's going through physical abuse, right? They might think, well, my sexuality is unsafe, so I'm going to cut off that piece for my sexuality, and it's unsafe to live there. It's unsafe to be in my body. I am now a slave. I'm now somebody else's body. I have to do what they say, be a good little girl, good little boy, and do what they say. The next is that mental, right? Can't think for myself, have to go along with the crowd. This now becomes somebody else's. Your perception then becomes somebody else's, right? And then somebody says, well, you can't feel that way. You're not supposed to feel that way. We have emotional abuse. We have bullying, right? And you begin cutting yourself off from your voice, cutting yourself off from your body, doing what you're said. It becomes unsafe. And it blows out. So what happens to the soul when you're doing this is these fragments, instead of living here, right? This comes over here and it's hanging on by a string. And this comes over here and it's hanging on by another string. And this comes over here and it's hanging on by another string, right? And this comes over here and it's hanging on by another string. The thoughts, right? I'm not allowed to have my thoughts. And we come up with all these concepts of the soul. But what I've learned, and we'll kind of end on this note and what we're going to be really going over, is that this little piece right here, this is actually your physical body. This itty bitty teeny weeny battery pack. And this battery pack fires everything about the experience that you have. And when it's feeling safe, right, it's taken care of, it's fed, the elements of it is regulated, then it can reconnect to your brain. And the brain, when the brain is safe and says, I'm safe, then it can reconnect to your emotions. And when your emotions said, I can move us anywhere and everything is possible, then it can reconnect to your authority or your etheric field. And your etheric field goes, I can receive and everything is great. And on the outside, the biggest part of you, the part of you that is complete, is your emotion, or is your soul. And the soul then gets to be the outside. The soul gets to express and have fun in this world, and that's my intention. So we're going to go back to the slides just for a second, and just share, I will share the notes that I took. In my notes, I did put all the references and things that I looked up and studies I did through the course. And then, so you'll be able to look them up. I know how much we like that. Hopefully you have some understanding of soul psychology and the interplay between it and trauma today. And we'll go through any class or any questions that you have in just a second, or comments that you have, because I want to know what you think about this. And that's pretty much that. We just talked about this slide. I was supposed to go back and forth, but I got things. So now you kind of see how I want you to feel together. I want this to be the outcome for you and your clients, and not to feel this busted out trauma, not being in charge of your identity. Like I said, you can have your notes in your workbook. There we go. And we'll go through that, and this class is going to be experiential. So that said, please go ahead and just let me know your insights and any questions that you might have and how you feel about this class. And I hope that you're feeling really great. I know that was a lot of information today. It'll be less technical and more exploratory going forward. I'm going to put this on all of our view.
Thank you,
See all of
Alicia.
you. Hi. How do I unpin myself? Remove spotlight. There we go. So what do you think? Is this what you signed up for? Yes, Allie.
Thank you so much. It was a lot to take in. I mean,
Yeah.
I need the notes to go through again and look at what I jotted down as you were talking,
And you
four
can listen to the
syllable
replay too.
words a minute, but it's a lot to go through. I what you were ending with, that trauma comes from genes and experiences. I never thought of that. I've always thought of it as experiential. And so I can't wait to explore that. That you touched on a lot of things and regulating the vagus nerve. I'm I want to I want to find out about that. I think your notes will be very helpful because no matter how quickly I wrote, I couldn't get it all down.
No, I was like, so I like wrote like 6 pages of stuff.
Right. Right. So it was a lot,
I won't for
but
the
but
next
good.
time. This is
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I have to explain soul and transpersonal psychology and trauma, right? I wanted us to be like on the same page. I think that's the most important of this. So you have a really good foundation for the rest of the course.
Yeah, I wonder if we were given some vocabulary first to define, and then you would either confirm our definition or would change our definition to a different
I think that
definition.
would be more debate, right?
Hmm.
And that's not something that my nervous system is safe with.
Okay.
So I just want to lay the foundation, like this is where we're coming from, right? And that's in the coursework, and this will be there. And then that's why I went over today is like how we're defining soul is consciousness, right? And this is what the research says it is. How we're defining trauma is this, and this is where it comes from.
Mm,
And what is transpersonal psychology? What is identity? Yeah.
right.
And I didn't
Very,
even want to
very
use like my
interesting.
own opinions, right? For this piece. Like I really want us to be in a space where we're getting facts because the rest of this is gonna be all me.
Right.
Not all me. The vagus nerve stuff. I mean everything I've learned, but yeah.
Yeah. The labs look like they will be more connected to, we will connect to ourselves and to you. But this was, yeah, to lay a foundation, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week will be really about the body. Yeah. But I will lay out the definitions for you on these three topics for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Is there any way that we should set up the workbook other than the order that because first you gave us the order, I printed it out, but now you said we're going to do class 3 for that, not class 2, whatever it was, you
That's
said.
just with the chakras. So
Okay.
when it comes to like Judith's work and other people's work, like and even in yogic world, like it's physical, emotional, mental field, right? But when healing from trauma, the if a person has story, it's very hard for them to get into that emotional field of safety if the story's still running. So we get to disconnect from the story or repurpose the story first
Mm.
before we go into creating a safe space for their emotions. Because it just doesn't work that way. And it took me a long time and a lot of people to like realize, because I wanted to make it, follow the lines of building a human back up again through the yogic philosophies or the God ladder philosophy, because they agree. And I was like, that just doesn't work. And finally I was like, oh, it's because of the trauma.
Hmm. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your feedback, though. And yeah, I think the notes will help a lot.
Yeah. Um, and so you're t saying we're going to check the chakras and the sacral spaces systems, and so should we look into them ahead of time or just go with the flow as you present?
I just go with the flow. I mean, that's really going to be when we get into the etheric field. We'll just go over it all, be more experiential, right? It's not going to be too cognitive. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to include it in the overview.
Right. Right. Oh,
You're muted, Kimberly.
Kellyanne has a suggestion in the chat.
Ah, let me open up the
She
chat.
said when she was lecturing, she would write her notes as bullet points in a PowerPoint slides to help the students follow through.
Yeah,
We had a conversation about that.
yeah, I I didn't want to because I wasn't quite sure like how much to put in there. And I also am doing 100 different things right now. I have a lot of other things going on, and I honestly just this is my first time through it. So when we do it next time, it will be more complete. But I wanted to make sure that you guys had good content, and the slides were less important, and I didn't have time for both.
Well, the content was exceptional, Lisha, and having been
Yes.
your doctoral advisor, I was really pleased to hear the citations that you had and the different definitions. So I geeked out on that.
Me too.
And I'm
yeah.
also happy that in the rest of the classes, they will be more experiential based.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so one of the things I wanted to mention as well is mostly today you talked about us as therapists, and we are all healers, but we can all use this as well for our personal healing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm not even a therapist. Right? So like it's but I really want to change one of my goals, as Kimberly knows, is to change the therapeutic methodology and how they do things so they can think more as healers. And one thing I've experienced, and many of my healer friends have experienced, and maybe you guys have too, is on social media and things like that, when we're talking about actually healing things and things are actually effective, we're blocked. And yeah, we can talk about the symptomology and the abuse itself and all those things and not be be kind of celebrated. So yeah, you don't have to be a therapist, but I wanted you to know, like, when people come to you with trauma, normally they go and they have these symptomologies, right? That a therapist or psychologist or doctor would give them and kind of put them in that box. And my hope is that we help them get out of that box.
Tina has her hand raised. Is that, let me see.
Oh, hey, Tina.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
I can,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hello. Please, I'm very impressed with this lecture. Um, I think that you are onto something that a lot of people would love to have. And I think I'm praying that you will formalize it because for the first time, you have everything about trauma integrated spiritually, physically, in all aspects that were always fragmented. So actually, the treatment itself was being fragmented. So you can then imagine how the patient feels about getting treatment that is fragmented when they're already fragmented.
Yeah.
For the first time, I've heard somebody doing or attempting to totally integrate and make whole the treatment process for somebody who has been traumatized. And I believe that God will give you the wisdom to and strength to clear your own definitions. I don't care what anybody tells you. Your definition is your definition, or your definition is right on the mark. Because being a physician for so many years, dealing with people with trauma, dealing with trauma myself, coming to a place where I'm hearing everything being said and integrated and with authority, whether you like it or not, but it's authority of the moment of how you present it that is perfect. And it's not how regular psychology sees it. It's not how medicine sees it. It's not even how spiritual people see it. Everybody is dancing on their own tune. This is the first time I've had somebody integrate the treatment that is trying to integrate somebody who has been traumatized. Actually, people dissociate them more because they hear so many things. So I think that you are into something great, and I really wish and ask God to help you put wind on yourselves so you can organize this in the best way possible. I have perception of things or where they're going. It's a gift I've always had. And hearing you today uh, has really healed my soul. Just knowing that there is somebody out there who is thinking, everybody says holistic, holistic, but are they holistic? No. And so, but this is the first time that I'm hearing somebody actually talk holistically about healing trauma. And really, I appreciate you. I thank you so much. And I wish you all the best in this work. And I would really love to participate in this work. But
I'm so
please
happy that you're
do the
here, that you get
definitions.
it.
I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tita.
Mm.
uh, like I said, it's a big one. It's been a lot of work.
Yes.
I think for us all, I know most everyone here, and I know that we've all been through quite a lot recently. And so this is a wonderful time for us to experience this kind of full integration. And even as you were talking, I was thinking back about my own life, and I was thinking, I didn't realize before today that I was still suffering from PTSD just 10 years ago. I'm thinking back of my life and how I responded to things in my life. And I think it wasn't until 10 years ago that I could close my eyes and feel safe. I couldn't even close my eyes. If I was out somewhere in public, if I was around any other people, I could not close my eyes. I didn't feel safe. And I didn't connect that with leftover trauma. So thank you for your little drawing with the eyes, because that helped me really catch that piece and bring that safety into my heart.
Well, I am still learning about safety myself, so thank you guys for creating a safe space for me to share this very holistic methodology with you.
I would think that this is always going to be a journey as long as we're alive and experiencing things. It will never be a destination, a final destination. So I'm looking forward to it. When you were talking about trauma comes from the genes and experiences, I was thinking genes. And I realized, yeah, I can see some of that in my life. But then you were saying about the experiences, and it was like divorce, check, car accident, check. Like you went through like a handful of things, and I was able to check every single one. So I think it'll be good to work on this.
Excellent.
And Dr. Kellyan's suggestion about the bullet points, you didn't have time before, but if there is a possibility over the next, month to put the notes in bullet points, it might be good for you for your next lecture. And because with the where you had lecture notes and a space to write everything, if some of the words, the vocabulary were there, I wouldn't have had to write that. I could have just written your suggestion or definition, so it would have made it easier.
I can absolutely do that. I didn't think about just putting like the definitions there. That actually would make it a lot easier. I was like, that's too much to explain the soul. It's too much to, like, how could I fit that into a slide? I was like, I'm just gonna teach them because there's so little and so much literature, just depending on which segment,
Right, right.
And,
But also there are
I love that.
verbal learners. There are learners, you have to see it in writing. Some people need to hear it and see it in writing. So it might be helpful.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna send you guys the whole, like this. This is what I wrote up. Like all these pages is what
We'll post your notes
I
up.
read.
'Cause
So
that would be really
I'll post
useful.
my notes. I inserted like my own stories and own stuff in there, but yeah. So, and
Beautiful.
Dr. Tina, you can just speak up. Like we're a small enough, beautiful group that you can just talk whenever.
Okay.
I didn't lower her hand from before.
Oh, you did, Laura.
I just got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just got it.
So, are there any other questions? Like I said, the next class. Let's see. If you need help, what did you just say? I can't see them.
So Dr. Kellyan is saying that if you want some help with your PowerPoint, she's happy to help you.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It would be fun. That'd be,
yeah.
yeah.
I would love that, and to get to know you.
Yeah.
So this next lab is going, or the first lab will be an experience of just like looking at the different layers of you. It's an experience, kind of inventor. We're going to do the reverse of what I normally do. I do I call it soul seeding, but I do safe, secure, and successful. It's a experiential conscious awareness practice. I teach it to my clients and I teach it at Institute of Energetics, but we're going to be doing kind of the opposite of it. And we're going to be looking for our souls, right? Or I mean, looking for that consciousness. We're going to just find that space. So I would suggest coming. I always like to bless water, tea, whatever you want to drink. So we will bless things. We'll, really create that sacred and blessed space. So if you can come in a quiet, safe space that you can relax. If you want to lay down, cover up in a blankie, right? Anything like that, definitely bring it. It will be a guided experience, basically. Definitely have a place to write down notes from yourself and just hang out. We're gonna hang out.
Beautiful.
Okay.
So feel free to email Dr. Lishaw or me. I put both of our emails in that chat. And we'll send them out in an email too to make it easy. You can reply to the emails as well. And so please contact me to help with getting into the learning management system online, and contact Lishaw with questions about the course content. And we're here for you.
We're here for you. We're here for you. Yeah. I want you to take this to your healing practices.
Yes.
And your own life, right? And your own life. Thank you, Allie. It's so good to
Thank
see
you.
you again, Allie. I love you. Tina,
It's really good to see you as well, Bobby.
Thank you. I'll get it together.
And welcome, Keo.
Oh, thank you so
Keo, and
much.
Dr. Keelan. How do I pronounce your name? Keelan?
Keo.
Keo.
Keo, yes.
Yeah.
Keo and Keelan. Kellan?
Kellyan?
Kellyan.
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 Ah, so cool. Okay, Kellyan. I
Yeah.
have a weird name too, so not weird. Different. Cool.
Different. Individual.
Individual.
Where are you, Kellyan? Are you on the East Coast or?
I'm on the East Coast.
East Coast,
I'm
okay.
in Cornwall, New York.
I love the books. I
Mhm.
love seeing all the books behind you. That may be your screen,
Yeah, it is.
It is. I've never actually
Very
seen
nice.
that
Yes,
one. I
very
like
nice.
that.
Yes.
And Keo, where are you?
I'm in Rocky Mountains, Alberta, Canada.
Alberta.
Rocky
Okay.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Alberta, Canada. I love Alberta. I love Canada.
You have a lot of snow?
Yes.
Are you in the mountain time zone there in Alberta?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
an hour ahead. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
Eastern.
trying to get everybody's time zone. Tina is also in New York, and she's
Yeah,
on Eastern
Niagara
time.
Falls. Yeah.
Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
That's one place I haven't been yet.
Where?
Niagara Falls.
Oh,
At the border of
Niagara
Canada.
Falls. Yeah. I loved going with the boat and the water cascading. It was
Yes.
just, I've done it a few times. It was wonderful. Yeah.
And
I'm
Allie's
out
on
on
Long Island.
down. Yeah.
A lot of snow
And
here.
we have a few more people who couldn't be with us live today. They're working, and one of them is Rodney. He's also on the East Coast. He's in Maryland. My sister Megan is in this class.
Oh,
Kelly and Megan know each other. And Jill is our other person, and she's in British Columbia in the Vancouver area.
Nice. I'm heading to Maryland tomorrow, so.
Nice.
Well, he's off in Memphis today.
Oh, well, he's better off because it's 2 feet of snow predicted Saturday.
He's
Yeah.
lecturing in Memphis today. I think it was Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jill's off in Costa Rica, so we've got big travelers here.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it. All right, you guys.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's beautiful to have you. And yeah, I'll get the notes posted and
And the
just replay posted and I'm here for you and I'll see you on Tuesday.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.